Yes, I believe everything is running today. So, anyways, ready to go when you guys are. Best of three. Good luck, good luck, good luck.
All right, I'm host right now, so how about when we see ready from both players?
Green up.
And I guess
Alright,
let's
so Caldera's Refinery.
and three, two, one, start.
Excellent. Man, we don't even have to sync up or anything. It's just so much easier live. We can just watch. That's not true at all. I hate streaming. I'm lazy. I really
Oh,
I
easy
don't
for right now.
I
Tough
don't
for
I don't hate it, but I prefer to just do my casts when I can just sit around and not have to plan or anything like that. Figure out how my stream's working, work out all the kinks, blah blah blah. But anyways, all right, let's take a look at the matchup. So we've just been saying Riku and Stevebud, probably one of the high end matches of the early rounds. We were surprised to see this as a first round matchup, really. Stevebud doesn't often, I guess, play in the tournaments, but very solid player. Probably, I mean, I think we were saying on one of the videos we posted, we were like, yeah, Stevebud's probably the best of the casters, definitely without question.
There was that cast recently you posted of him playing against Paranoid. It was amazing, and that was actually his Eldar again.
Yeah, his Eldar is very solid, but I think he's just been more successful with his orcs recently, so I think that's been what he's been choosing to play as far as the actual tournament goes. Alright, so we're gonna pop off that Fog of War.
All right, I'm still loading in a bit, and we're just
Not a
about
problem.
okay.
Alright, so what are you expecting to see here? I don't know, from Stevebud, what do you think his best opportunity to deal with the Apothecary is, seeing that I guess he's probably considering the matchup maybe a bit of the underdog player here?
I think a lot of it's going to reside in his war boss. I think the war boss is one of the toughest things to deal about when you're playing against the war boss, not the orc army itself. Um, for orcs against Space Marine in general, especially with the apothecary, I think there's going to be a lot of trouble with early bleed for the orcs, especially if the attacks are in cover with heal support. Uh, oh, never
Yeah,
mind.
so we had a little issue with
But
Stevebud there. His sound was not working, so Riku agreed for a restart right here.
okay, all
So
right.
we may
Just
have
well,
to,
exit out. Oh,
yeah, I think, yeah, remake. We'll just remake the lobby real quick. Sorry, folks. Taking all the possible technical difficulties we can here to get started. Such is the curse of the live stream. Also, I have my fraps on. I guess we can get rid of that. Boop. Yes, get out of here, fraps.
telling everybody your frame rate.
Yeah, no one wants to see that. Don't look at my frame rate drops. Alright, let's try this one more time. Open observers, and invite a bunch of friends. We're inviting Dark Riku, Stevebud, and, of course, Maestro Cretella. Alright, round two of match one.
And Red-Rupee playing as the Warlock. A little bit of a twist here.
There we go. Alright. No,
Okay.
when I play Eldar, I prefer the Farseer. Big fan of the Farseer. I used to be a Warp Spider kind of guy, but I just like all the crazy buffs and stuff that the Farseer has. Ready!
I used to
Sounds
just do
good.
Warlock because I found it the easiest if you do the Jedi build.
I mean, it's a hard build to argue with. Alright, here we go. For reals this time.
So, as I was trying to say before, just get started here. I think with Space Marines versus Orcs, there's going to be a lot of trouble with the tax will be bleeding the Shootas and even the Sluggas disproportionately, killing a lot of those models. And if the tax are in cover and if they have a heal support, they will not really lose models and not really suffer economically if Dark Riku manages things right. So I think the War Boss is key in changing that. He can just charging into the Tactical Marines, even smashing over the cover that they'll be using. And he can especially make that easier if he chooses to get angry bits, which I think is really ending up being one of those strong war gears that the war boss has right now. So at least that's for the early stage how I see things going, or how it can go.
Certainly, sure. Alright, well, we're seeing a pretty standard start so far. We've got the double shooters for Mr. Stevebud. We've got Dark Riku bringing in the second scout along with his tactical marines to start. And everyone's just going for the standard cap order, grabbing their power, grabbing their ancillary points in the rear field, and moving their way into the center. Calderas, a big open map. I actually feel like this is probably one of the, you know, it's very spread out, which is not great for Space Marine, but the center, the main battlefield is nothing but just wide open firing lanes and green cover all over the place, you know, before the war boss knocks it all over.
Which he's already starting to do. So I find it interesting that we're in a tournament, so we're seeing the most typical builds there is for both of these races. Nothing too crazy, just the double shooters and the double scouts. And already we see that going for the tax.
Yeah, I mean, when orcs are playing, when you play against these initial starts against Space Marine, that's what you want to do. You want to get those heavy units tied up. You want to draw fire with your war boss, try to get that range fire in. And you can see all of the squads are pretty much healthy right now. Stevebud spent a lot of time. He's trying to get that war boss off the field, but even when he does, he's going to have 2 squads of shooters and the squad of sluggers to deal with after that gets pushed off, and he's going to have to play really carefully to not get overrun by that in this initial engagement.
Fight on and drive the enemy back.
So he did go for the tax with his war boss, which I think is the right thing to do, since that tax squad by itself is going to be doing more damage than, or about as much damage as both scouts. Although with double scouts and a tactical marine squad, that's still a lot of focus fire that you can have. So even if you're tying up the best range unit that the Space Marines have, they'll still have a decent amount of range DPS coming out and focusing down that war boss.
Now, a minor slip up here, I feel like, by Steve, but he did have those big shooters, and I think... Oh no, he doesn't. Never mind. I thought he had enough there for a aiming. What's that at this point?
Just got a little red.
It's 20 red to use that, right?
I wish I could tell you for sure.
I believe it's 20. I thought he had 20 there, but he only had about 15 right there. But obviously, the initial choice would be to suppress those attacks and then move in with the sluggers. But he kind of threw those sluggers in there, and 2 squads of scouts is equal to a squad of attacks as far as DPS pretty much. So he was just sending 2 squads of sluggers out there against the DPS of 2 tax squads.
Now we're seeing the attacks get their heal and stepping behind the green cover. That's not a good... it's just not a good situation for the shooter boys, since they'll basically just be bleeding. And this attacks will probably not lose a model, although if they do, that is quite a bit of requisition to reinforce.
Yeah, we've got the 2 scout squads on the western part of the map, kiting around, playing the good old rope-a-dope with the war boss. And you can see Dark Riku went for his usual Assault Marine rush, so didn't get any upgrades, just went straight for those Assault Marines, then dropped another couple power generators right there to start boosting that power income once he has his base core army on the field. Because with the Apothecary, those tax and those Assault Space Marines are pretty much going to be all he needs to move around on the field. Nice timing for some shotgun upgrades, push that war boss off and allow Dark Riku to now put some pressure on that side of the map and possibly cut in to Stevebud's requisition income.
So Stevebud is answering back with a jump troop of his own. Some Storm Boys. A lot more powerful in terms of DPS than the Assault Space Marines, although a little bit squishier. They'll be very good against attacks if they jump in, but they certainly have to watch out for shotguns.
Scouts still trying to hold this side of the map against another squad. The second squad isn't upgrading with shotguns, but right now Stevebud has bigger problems because his gen farm's about to go down to some flamer attacks. There's Assault Space Marines over there. Just jumped in, switching places with those Storm Boys.
Counter jump. I think that should be enough to force the attacks off.
Yeah, it looks like. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, 2 models go down. That's going to be excellent for Stevebud right here. And then
already use your choppers.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. The Apothecary's coming in for the heal, but is he going to get it before a model goes down? It looks like he just barely does. I'm actually surprised the Assault Marines got that low before any models went down. Very fortunate for Riku after losing those 2 tactical Marines. it would have been a big hit to lose another Assault Space Marine or two.
So I think that was a good response from Stevebud. Good use of the global. Did not even suffer that much on the Gen Bash.
He's still kind of moving over to the eastern side of the map. I really feel like with those Assault Marines falling back and those Tactical Marines reinforcing, he needs to just move in on that power farm ASAP, but instead it looks like he's just going to go for some map control. I think against Space Marine, though, slowing down that tech is the best thing you could possibly do. I mean, so far, Riku's spent, let's see, 50, 30, and 20 power. So, I mean, he's spent 100 power already to Stevebud's just, I think, 40 or 80.
And he's spending even more now getting the Master Crafted Bolter, which I think is an extremely good choice.
The enemy falters.
Mainly for that War
He is
Boss.
not yet beaten.
In fact, I mean, if he uses full auto on the War Boss, has support, that could probably be the War Boss forced off the field, if not dead. Very powerful war gear.
Yeah, and just in general, it's so valuable to keep the Apothecary on the back lines, make sure he can stay on the field, and with that Mastercrafted Bolter, he can do that and still be contributing DPS to the fight. So here comes another big push forward. Going to be a piercing strike here from Dark Riku as he pushes up to this power farm once again. One squad of Shooter Boys pushed off, the second pretty injured. Of course, even with 3 models, the big Shooter squad is still very potent as far as damage. Most of their DPS comes from those 2 big Shooter models, so long as you have those on the field, they're still going to be doing a solid job dealing the hurt.
Now, Stevebud is being a little passive. I think he might be worried that he would not force off the Space Marines if he tried to approach. Now he's approaching, because he doesn't want too many of those gen farms taken down. And I mean, if the attacks get in on the gen farm at all, they're going to be wiping down generators. That's almost a full gen farm wipe, and that last one just has a little bit of health left.
Well, just enough time to start this engagement as his big shooters are joining, but both of his melee squads are starting to get focused down and not sure if he's going to be able to stay in here long enough to make a difference. Storm Boys are jumping out. The Assaults are quite injured, though. They jump away, and it looks like Riku's satisfied with the damage he's done, leaving the 1 generator up, but taking down 2 and the node itself. Both players heading into Tier 2. Stevebud a little ahead, but for the time being, he's not going to have too much power to deal with, and it looks like once again...
That's not a good situation for Stevebud, since the Assault Space Marines, they only have like 60-75% health, but if the Shooter Boys decide to fight, they'll easily be countered by the Assault Space Marines, even with partial health. So generator farm completely gone for Stevebud.
Stevebud spent his power on something. I'd be willing to bet that there's a war truck or something like that coming on the field, or maybe... Oh no, he's getting himself a Sluggaboy knob. So that's going to be the issue there. I really feel like maybe a war truck would have been a better choice right here. I mean, if nothing else, he could have popped that war truck, just blitzed over to the other side of the map, and probably taken down Riku's gen farm in return. Because now would be a great time to do it. Riku's in Tier 3. He does have the Razorback coming, but he doesn't have too much power beyond that, so it would really force him to stall out and really try to get some AV on the field, because with his current composition, he doesn't have too much coming.
Unfortunately, Stevebud has not too many resources, although Orcs do have a power-free AV choice in the form of Tank Busters, and we do have that Razorback coming out on the field. I'm a little concerned about that Slug and Nod choice. It seems like Riku has melee pretty well countered.
Yeah, the Slug and Knob, I mean, it can be incredibly useful against Space Marine. That added heavy melee and that quicker squad is going to be, you know, invaluable against dealing with all this power armor. So we'll have to see if these 2 squads, both now upgraded with their knobs and dealing some heavy damage. I mean, all things considered, the scouts have used their shotgun blast. If he pulls those ASMs off the field, everything else on the field is going to get battered by these Orc squads.
Actually,
Squad's getting very low, and he lets them get away. One more swing, and that scout squad would have been down. A slight oversight. The the Storm Boys rather, fell back. The Sluggers with user choppers. The Razorback trying to make sure these squads can stay on the field. Everything hops inside. And the perfect timing with the transport coming in there to save the day. Nice play by Dark Riku. Excellent timing. Managed to thwart that impending Gen Bash. Stevebud did manage to focus 1 down with some big shooters. Before that engagement happened, and Tank Bust is already on the way.
Yeah, I think we're already seeing a lot of very nice plays from obviously some very experienced players. For a lot of people, I think what just happened there with the both the Sluggers and the Storm Boys using Use Your Choppas, that for a lot of Space Marine players, I think they would have lost a few squads there. But the Razorback support there to get some of those units inside and even reinforcing was key to keeping those squads alive.
That was a dangerous barrage.
Yeah, Riku reacted a little slowly to that one. I don't know what the full damage potential is of that tank buster barrage, but obviously it's pretty easy to move out of the way of it.
Honestly, I'm always baffled when a Space Marine brings out that Razorback and doesn't first thing get that armor upgrade. I feel like that's so very important. Like, I mean, had Riku, or had that Buster Barrage been a little more perfectly placed, like, that Razorback may well have gone down if a few more of those rockets had hit the rear armor. Here comes another barrage. And that was a little mind game barrage there. You see, he launched it expecting Riku to back up. Riku just reacted with a smoke bomb, though, but sending those Assault Marines in way ahead of the rest of the match. I think that's a bad choice. Wow, a really nice merciless strike, though.
It would also be nice to get a heal with purification rights, but instead he went for kind of the heal spam build, armor purity, and improved medical equipment. And yeah, he's actually...
Those double scout shotguns are brutal, and now you can see him locking down that Warboss with full auto. Warboss had to fall back. Tank Buster's in dire straits, and it's not looking good for Stevebud at all right now. Riku's got a grasp on the center part of the map, and he is not going to let it go. Stevebud drops the GG, and that's going to be the first match.
To the next battle.
Just recognizing that he didn't have much of an option right there. Couldn't do too much to stop that giant wave of Space Marine with that Apothecary support. So Dark Riku takes the first match. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. I mean, it's pretty much indicative of how that game went. Not too much to really say about that. The bars say it all. Stevebud just, I think I agree. Like, at one point, he just wasn't quite aggressive enough. And when you're not pressuring the Space Marines gem farm, like, there's no reason they can't just move up. I think that initial time when he took out the 2 tacks and forced off the Assault Marines, he really needed to just, you know, coalesce his forces and push in on the